I just came across one of the best new anime I've seen in recent years, Shangri-La Frontier. I've been looking for new things to watch and keeping an eye out for up-and-comers, and boy does this one fit that description. The easiest way to describe the appeal of this series is to compare it to Sword Art Online, as Shangri-La Frontier is also a VR game based anime with a highly skilled and confident main character. But after only 5 episodes into Shangri-La Frontier, it became clear that this anime is going to be much slower paced than SAO, which had already done a 2-year time skip by the 5th episode of the series. So far, it seems that SLF is going to give us more actual detail about the game. We're going to see side quests, boss fights, and game mechanics in action, unlike in Sword Art Online, where we were only introduced to these things and then quickly moved past them. And while there is no threat of actual death in SLF like in SAO, the main character takes the game so seriously that there may as well be. I'll get into more detail on the game mechanics and stuff a bit later on, but for now let's back up a bit. And fair warning, there will be a few spoilers in this video. This is your warning to click away. Still here? Good. The first thing that struck me about Shangri-La Frontier was the art style and animation. It is incredibly polished. The other thing that grabbed my attention was the fact that at only 4 episodes in when I discovered the series, SLF had already been dubbed in multiple other languages. More than that, the English dub cast Eric Vale as the main character, who many of you will know as Sanji and Future Trunks, from One Piece and Dragon Ball Z respectively. These 3 things convinced me to give the first episode a shot, and I wasn't disappointed. The protagonist of the show, Rakuro Hizotome, who I'm just going to call by his username Sunraku from now on, is great. He's confident, charismatic, hilarious, and actually relatable. One of the main things you'll notice as you watch the show is that Sunraku actually feels like a real-life gamer. He gets salty about long loading screens, poorly written and annoying NPCs, buggy game mechanics, yet for some reason, he keeps on playing these trash games, seemingly so that he can continue complaining about them, much like many gamers in real life, looking at you Overwatch players. Somehow, in his search for a new game, he comes across Shangri-La Frontier and decides to give it a shot. Now, I'll try to avoid using too much detail here for those of you who want to check this anime out for yourself, but pretty early on into the game, after he gets his bearings by fighting a stereotypical goblin, then an absurdly fast bunny, he gets his ass kicked by a gigantic wolf demon and ends up with something called Lycagon's Curse. This mark prevents him from wearing armor, and so he is essentially forced to dress in the same thing he wore in the last so-called trash game we see him playing at the start of the first episode. That is to say, boxers, and nothing else. This adds for an interesting dynamic, as it makes Sunraku stand out among other players, and pushes our main character to decide to do whatever it takes to beat this wolf demon and remove the curse. But the mark does more than just prevent him from wearing armor and make him stick out like a sore thumb in a crowd. It also causes NPCs to respond differently to Sunraku than to normal players. And it seemingly allows for unique side quests to open up, as we see in episode 4. As a part of this unique side quest he finds himself in, Sunraku ends up with a cute, talking, magic-using bunny named Emil as a partner. More on that later. In episode 5, we get a glimpse of some of the brilliant game mechanics at play in SLF. Episode 5 shows us Sunraku beating his second area boss, the Mud Digger. After knocking its HP down enough to trigger its second attack pattern, Sunraku finds himself knocked up into the air, and about to die soon from fall damage. As he is close to the ground, Emil casts a teleport spell on Sunraku, moving him above the Mud Digger. The additional falling time gives Sunraku enough speed to accidentally trigger an aerial, momentum-based attack called Meteor Fall, and when he hits the mud digger, instead of taking fall damage, he is registered as an attack himself, and he kills the monster. If you asked me to come up with a dozen different ways of how I'd write Sanraku out of that situation, this victory by accident wouldn't have even crossed my mind. I was totally sold on this anime the moment I saw it. However, that didn't stop me from forgetting about the series for several weeks and recently coming back to 14 new episodes to watch. Take a wild guess what I'm going to be up to for the next week. But it turned out that my totally intentional break from SLF was just long enough that the English dub was able to make a lot more progress. Makes for easy viewing when I don't have to keep my eyes glued to the screen for fear of missing one strip of dialogue and forgetting what anime I'm watching. Anyhow, I'm really excited to see where SLF goes, because like I was saying earlier, it reminds me a lot of Sword Art Online. SAO was a masterpiece of an anime, or at least the first 14 episodes are. Due to a lack of confidence on the part of the author, SAO had multiple time skips, cutting out crucial details in the plot and essentially just throwing us into the deep end. It's as if the writer was so excited to get into the meat and potatoes of the story that he decided to skip the setup to get there. And the end result is, well, 14 episodes of a riveting storyline which are best viewed as a 5-hour-long anime film, and then another 40 or so episodes of milking the success of those 14 episodes. But ranting about Sword Art is not the topic of this video, so I'll save the rest of that for another day. SLF promises to take the game a lot more slowly, and allow us to actually see the whole game world that the series is named after. This aspect alone is going to keep me tuning into SLF to see where things go, and the only other new series that can do that for me right now is Zom 100, but again, I'll save that for another day. And speaking of other videos, stay tuned for an upcoming video where I all over Flashpoint Paradox. If that grabbed your attention like Shangri-La grabbed mine, hit that subscribe button so you don't miss it. Have you seen Shangri-La Frontier, or is this the first you're hearing of it too? Let's talk about it in the comments. Hope you enjoyed the video, and as always, thanks for watching.